إن الحمد لله نحمده ونشكره ونستغفره ونستهديه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. أما بعد، فإن أفضل الحديث كلام الله، وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Beloved brothers and sisters, praise be to Allah, who has blessed us with the greatest blessing ever, and that is to make us Muslims. Praise be to Allah, who has blessed us with the greatest grace, and that is Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam being our final prophet and messenger. And praise be to Allah, who has blessed us with the protection with us till the day of judgment, His word, the Quran, the word of wisdom. Beloved brothers and sisters, may Allah, His angels, and all that around His throne witness that I love each and every one of you for the sake of Allah. Beloved brothers and sisters, at the core of our religion, at the most important point of our religion, is knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The most important thing in our faith is knowing Allah. If you want to grow as a Muslim, know and draw closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you want faith that empowers you the entire time, know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you're facing challenges, difficulties, hardships, and don't know how to get out of it, get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala are the magnificent names and attributes. And today we want to talk about one of those names and attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We want to talk about the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Alhakeem. What does Alhakeem mean? And why is it important to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Alhakeem? Alhakeem means the wise. And what is so important about knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and knowing of the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Beloved brothers and sisters, 30 or more percent of adults in America take antidepressants at one point in their life. Let alone the anxiety and the stress that each and every person goes through. Let alone the high blood pressure and you know it better than I do. And all of that is because we miss one word, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Al-Hakeem, the wise. One of the sunnah that a lot of us try and practice every Friday is to read Surah Al-Kahf. And what does Surah Al-Kahf teach us? It teaches us wisdom. The people from Bani Israel, the Muslims of Bani Israel, asked Musa, hey, you're the most knowledgeable person. Is there anyone that knows anything more than you or wiser than you? He says, as far as I know, I'm the most knowledgeable person. Absolutely. And then he asked Allah, am I the wisest of all? And Allah says, Musa, take a trip, and by the side of the river, where the rivers intersect, you will find a man that has a wisdom that you don't have. And in the famous story, he goes there, runs into that person called Al-Khadr. Some say that he's a man, some say that he's an angel. Anyways, he's a servant, Abd min ibadina, a servant of Allah. And he follows the servant. People come with a boat. And they say, Musa wants to cross and someone else with him, and they say, oh, it's the prophet of Musa. Come here, jump with us. They're nice and kind to Musa and his guests, and they're helping them cross the river. What do you do when someone is kind to you? You thank them and say, Jazakallah khairan, may Allah bless you, and thank you for crossing us the river. What does the person, the passenger with Musa alayhi salam do? Does the opposite. Starts wrecking the boat. Now the water is coming out. In a few minutes, the whole boat is going to sink. They say, Musa, Prophet of Allah, we love you. but we need to get you and your guests out of our boat, otherwise you're going to destroy us. And you can imagine how ashamed Prophet Musa is. Those are people that are nice and helping us. So the moment they get on the shore, he starts screaming at Al-Khidr, what is wrong with you? Those people are nice to us. They're helping us. They're killing us. They're doing this. And very calmly, Khidr looks at him and says, remember the deal that we had? That I'm going to do some things that doesn't make sense to you, but you just have to be quiet and trust me? And you promised me, Musa, that you'll be patient, but now that you don't know the reason of what I did, you're all worked up and angry? The reason a lot of us are stressed out, the reason we have a lot of anxiety, we're getting all those antidepressants and all the challenges in our lives is because we don't see the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in it. I have a boat, I'm nice to you. You come in my boat and dig a hole in it? So Musa says, okay, I'll be quiet. Make a long story short, we go to the other side of the story. They're traveling for days and find a house and knock on the door in hopes that someone will offer them something to eat or drink. They open the door and say, get the hell out of our house. You're not welcome here. Musa looks down, subhanAllah, he's a prophet, he's a messenger, he came with their guidance and their help, and they're to serve them. They say, get away from our house. Of course, he thinks Al-Khidr is worked up in anger, he's going to walk away with him. What does Al-Khidr do? He finds that they have a wall that's shaking, about to fall, and he goes and helps him reconstruct that wall and helps him. Musa alayhi salam is like, Al-Khidr, I'm done with you. We're done. People that are nice to you, you wreck their boats. People that kick you out of their house are evil to you. You're nice and building their wall. You're confusing me. You don't make any sense. He says, Musa, come here. Let me break it down. Let me explain it to you in simple terms. In the first case, there is a king right down the stream of the river. Every boat that looks good and fancy, he takes it. And if that boat looked exactly the way it was going to confiscate it. But now that there's a little wreck in it, a little hole, they get to keep their boats. SubhanAllah. Sometimes we face a challenge in our life. Sometimes we find a roadblock in our life. Sometimes we need something, we ask for something, and we don't get it. And in it is there a rescue. And then look at the other side. Brutal people, unkind people, that kicked out the Prophet of Allah from their house. And he builds the wall. Why did you do it? He says, because in that house they're fostering 2 orphans. And their great grandfather was a pious man. And he had a lot of wealth. And he dug a hole in the ground and he put the wealth in it, all the gold and the money in it. And he built that wall. If this wall falls today and collapses today, those evil people will collect it. But I rebuilt the wall so that years later when those kids grow, the wall will fall and they will be the ones that collect that wealth. Allah is Hakeem. Allah is wise in what He does. If we understood that in our hearts, if we lived that and appreciated that, my brothers and sisters, you will never ever understand something called stress or anxiety or depression, because you know that everything happens by the mercy and grace and wisdom of Allah. وَلِلَّهِ الْحِكْمَةُ الْبَالِغَةُ. And to Allah is the most exquisite wisdom. Beloved brothers and sisters, in the long famous story, there was a king. And kings back then, and Khulafat back then, they always had a wazir, a counselor, an advisor. And that advisor will be a very smart, genius person, fully understood, knows the faith and knows the religion and knows cultures and knows everything else. And this advisor to the king was a very kind, genuine person. So, and this actually happened in the northern part of Sudan, the southern part of Egypt, centuries ago. So whenever the king will ask him and say, I want to do this, I want to do that, what do you think? That imam, that advisor of his looks at him and says, Inshallah khair. By the will of Allah, it will be good. He says, okay, well today you want to do this, and I want to do this, and my diplomacy, and my whatever. And he would look at him and say, Inshallah khair. By the will of Allah, it will be good. My decision is to do this, I wanted this, but we lost it. And he would say, Inshallah khair, in everything. By the will of Allah, it is all good. But then one day, the king comes running. And by mistake, he was cutting and he cut off his thumb. Cutting something in the kitchen and cut off his thumb. And comes to the advisor and says, I cut my finger, I cut my finger. And the advisor looks at him and says, Inshallah, Inshallah, something that's good. The king gets angry. He says, I'm telling you, I cut off my own finger, my flesh, my blood. Are you telling me it's good? Take him and throw him in jail. What kind of counsel? I'm telling you, I cut myself. I'm suffering, I'm screaming. And you say, Inshallah, throw him in jail. And they throw him in jail. Around that city are primitive people. They did not like that king and fought and fought and fought until they defeated the king. Took over his kingdom. Imprisoned the king. In the primitive areas there, they did not believe in Islam, but when the river Nile rises, they had a tradition. They think it's going to flood everything. So they find either the most beautiful girl, wrap her up and throw her in the Nile, or someone of very high stature, such as a king or someone that has a high position, and they throw him in the river Nile. So the Nile will take it as a gift and an offering, and then it goes down and no longer floods. So they went, when there was a flood, they found the king that they had captured, and they dress him up, and now they're going to throw him in the Nile and kill him there as a sacrifice for the Nile to go down. But then one of their leaders looked and said, no, we cannot do that. Why? Because he's an incomplete being. What do you mean he's an incomplete being? He doesn't have a thumb. The Nile would not accept him. So the king said, SubhanAllah, little did I know that my thumb that is cut off is going to save my life. Now I know what that man said when he said, Inshallah khair. Now I understood it. If I'm ever king, I will know how to pay him back. Days later, the people that loved the king were able to collect, fought the primitive people, brought the king back to his kingdom, and now he's the king, and the first decision he makes is release my advisor and bring me back. He said, Jazakallah khair. Now I understood what you did, but everything happening is khair. Like the Prophet ﷺ saying, everything that happens to a Muslim is good. If it's something that he enjoys, he thanks and praises Allah, and it is good for them. And if it's something that discomforts them, they know it happens by the wisdom of Allah, and they praise Allah, and forgives their sins. He said, but my advisor, I have one question for you. When I threw you in jail, you said, Alhamdulillah, Inshallah khair. You said, Inshallah, Alhamdulillah, praise be to Allah, and it's for a good reason. What is good in me throwing you in jail? What could be good in you being in jail? He said, after the primitive people found out that you had a defect, they need to find your vice king, or the king after you, which is me. And because I was in jail, they did not know that I existed. So me being in jail saved my life as well. وَلِلَّهِ الْحِكْمَةُ الْبَالِغَةُ. But my brothers and sisters, when we say Allah has hikmah, is wise, it has two more meanings to it. The first one is the wisdom of Allah in every decision that He makes. What does that mean? It means that I know when Allah tells me to pray, there's a wisdom behind that prayer, and I should adhere to it the best that I can. When Allah tells me to eat something and not eat something, I don't sit and negotiate, but I know that there is a wisdom why I should eat this, and it's halal, and there's a reason I should stay away from that drink and that food, because He made it haram. When Allah tells me to dress a certain way, don't sit and argue. Know that there is a wisdom in it. I remember the other day I was looking at a study that was done in one of the Middle Eastern countries. Biologically, physically, doesn't make any sense. But it proves one thing, that Allah is Hakeem and wise. What did the study do? The study followed college students in a Muslim country. Girls that wear the hijab, girls that wear the niqab. Niqab is you cover everything except for your eyes. And girls, Muslim girls, that don't wear the hijab. So the ones that don't wear the hijab, the ones that wear the hijab are the worst, that wear the niqab. And their marriage rate, which ones get married faster? As a human being, the girl that's not wearing the hijab, that's good looking, glamorous, and something like that, of course she's going to get married first. I don't see the girl, I only see her eyes. No, I'm going to marry her. Hijab, she's conservative strict. I'm not going to marry her, but the one that, oh, yeah, of course, talk to her, hang out and marry her. The study showed that 98% of the women that wear the niqab, nothing but the eye, were either engaged or married. 87% of the women that wear the hijab in college, engaged or married. 47% of the girls that did not wear the hijab, engaged or married. Does it make sense? But Allah is Hakeem. There's a reason He prescribed it. He knows it's good for you in every single aspect of your life. If He says eat this, eat it because it's good for you. If He says stay away from it, stay away from it. If He says fast, fast, it's good for you. If He says break your fast on this day, break it. I remember the other day a brother was asking me, everything in religion makes sense. Salah, the movement, that makes sense. Fasting makes sense. There's one thing that doesn't make sense. I said, okay, hit me with it. Wudu. How come I always have to wash myself? Before every salah I wake up, I have to wash. I can go to the bathroom, I have to wash. Doesn't make sense. I already take a shower. Why do I have to make wudu? One of the greatest scholars of Islam is called Imam al-Ghazali. Everybody loves that Imam. Wrote a book called Ihya Ulumuddin, one of the biggest studies of Islamic faith and heritage and religion. And he talks about every single aspect from a philosophical perspective. Let's take wudu for just a few seconds. Do you know that every single time you wash your hand for wudu, every single sin you committed is washed away? You play the little thing in the counter while you were working, and you did this, and you hit this, and you moved this, and every single sin you committed with your hand, wiped out. I don't know if you guys are like me. I hope you guys are not like me. You know what I like? I like to gossip. Brother so-and-so, he did this, they did this, gossip, sin. Do you know the moment you gurgle your mouth, that one thing you do so fast, every single sin you committed with your mouth is wiped out. Anything that you smell, wiped out. Your eyes, and now it's summertime. We're in South Florida. I know Ramadan is over, but please don't let your eyes go too loose. Especially kids, I know school is out. Watch what you see. Nonetheless, Allah is so merciful that everything that you see with your eye, when you make wudu and wash over your face, is wiped out. Every footstep you went to a place to sin towards Allah, break the command of Allah, when you wash your foot, is wiped out. Now imagine someone that makes wudu first thing in the morning, in the middle of the day, and at night before to go to bed. Do you think they have a single sin on them? وَلِلَّهِ الْحِكْمَةُ الْبَالِغَةُ. So Allah is full wisdom in every single command that He puts before us. And that is why we have to commit ourselves to the command of Allah. Just like we did in Ramadan, we want to continue after Ramadan. I will not miss a salah except on time. Or pray in the masjid if I can. Jum'ah, I need to come before the Imam gets on the minbar. Sadaqah, I need to give charity as much as I can. Hajj, if I haven't made it, I need to plan on it. Umrah, if I have the wealth to go on it. Sadaqah, to support others as much as I can. But then the hikmah of Allah goes a step further. Not only the worship, but it goes into our social fiber. Our social fiber. Beloved brothers and sisters, there are two angels that Allah created just for your service. Two angels that Allah created just for our service. If those two angels raise their hand and say, Allah, give this person something, Allah says, I have given them. And if those two angels say, don't give it to him, no matter what you do, you will never receive it. Those two angels are your father and your mother. So when Allah, out of His wisdom, says, obey them, honor them, it's for your own good, nobody else's. A lot of times I see people that are very smart in business. I can do this in business and do that, and nothing is going their way. They get the store, they get the business, they try their best, they're hustling, they're putting advertising, and the business is going down. Habibi, when is the last time you talked to your mother? I'm busy last month, I talked to her again, but I was just busy, I don't have the kids at work. That's where your problem is. My kids are acting up, my kids don't listen to me, my kids. When is the last time you talked to your father? It has nothing to do with my father, my kids are... No, when is the last time you spoke and honored your father? When he says honor your parents, he's saving you a lot of headache in this world and in the hereafter. They are the two people, if they pray against you, your life is destroyed no matter what you do. And they are the two people, if they pray for you and they pray for you, you will be elevated to the highest points in this world and in the hereafter. أقول هذا القول وأستغفر الله العظيم لي ولكم من كل ذنب فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله أما بعد. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Hakeem and wise, He loves wisdom. He loves wisdom. And as Muslims, a lot of times we make a very big mistake. We say something is right and something is wrong. But what we don't realize is not right and wrong in Islam. There is right, there is wrong, and then there is the wise thing to do, which is better than doing the right thing. In Islam, there is the right thing to do, there is the wrong thing to do, and then there is the wise thing to do. Right now, I drive downtown, Miami, South Beach, whatever, and I see two of the brothers standing in front of a bar. I come to the masjid, brother so-and-so, I saw them in front of a bar, bad Muslim, they're fasting, look at them, they're haram, they do that people. That's the right thing to do. I saw them there, I didn't lie. But the wise thing in the hikmah is to protect your brother and sister's honor. Why in the Quran does it say that if I see a man and a woman in front of me committing zina, committing adultery, that I don't speak? And if I speak in front of a judge, I am the one that gets punished and disciplined. Because wisdom is more important than just doing the right thing. Even when it comes to matters of religion, someone comes to the masjid and they learn a little bit of religion and they go home and their father and mother are watching the TV and they go and take the TV and break it. It's haram, it's bid'ah. Then you scream and shout at your own father and mother thinking that you're doing something that is good. No, you just did the worst, most ignorant thing in the world. Hikmah. That's why Allah says when you give da'wah, give it with wisdom. When you speak with your parents, with wisdom. With your friends, with wisdom. Your brothers and sisters, with wisdom. With your wife, with wisdom. Because if I give a khutbah, a lot of times people might come with different questions, including marital problems. And especially the younger generation, the moment the wife raises her voice, I want to divorce her. Are you stupid? It reminds me of one of the Sahaba that they got into an argument with his wife, and his wife raised her voice and started screaming at him. And he wanted to take some physical action, but before he did, he ran to the house of the Khalifa Amir al-Mu'mineen, Umar ibn Khattab, Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab radiallahu anhu, because Umar ibn Khattab was that tough man. And he knocked on the door of Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab almost 2 o'clock in the morning, late at night. And before he even opens the door, he hears the wife of Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab screaming at Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab. Imagine, his wife is screaming at him. Before he takes action, he says, let me go to the toughest, strongest man, Umar ibn Khattab. And he goes to the house of Umar ibn Khattab, and he hears the wife of Umar ibn Khattab screaming at him. And he turns back. He says, forget it. The wife of Umar ibn Khattab is screaming at him. Let me go back. And Sayyidina Umar ibn Khattab heard the knock, comes and opens the door and says, what is wrong, my son? He says, don't worry, don't worry. No, tell me. He says, okay, you want to know, my wife is screaming at me, so I wanted to take some action. So I said, let me ask your advice, because you're a tough man, macho man. And then I find your wife is screaming at you, so I turn back. Sayyidina Umar Khattab taught him hikmah and wisdom. He said, my son, she bore children for me. She had my children. She raised my children. She fed them. She took care of me. She protected my privacy. She protected my health. She fed me every single day. Is it that once in a while she raises her voice, I'm supposed to take action? Teaching us the importance of hikmah and wisdom. Yes, your wife will make a mistake. Yes, sister, your husband will make a mistake. Yes, your children will make mistake after mistake after mistake after mistake. And as a Muslim, you're supposed to have hikmah. Think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you sin, what does He do? Does He wipe you out? He says it in the Quran. وَلَوْ يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ, and if Allah will, مَا تَرَكَ عَلَى وَجْهِهَا, He would have wiped out every single thing on the surface of earth because of how sinful we were. وَلَكِنْ, but Allah is what? Is wise. So if you love Allah and His wisdom, then you have to inherit it in your decision making. With your wife, when she makes a mistake, let it pass. With your children, sometimes, let it pass. Act like you haven't seen it. Don't always interrogate and embarrass them and scream and shout at them. Hikmah. How many times have you made a mistake during the day and during the night and Allah sees it? And if He wills, He would have put it there publicly. But He protected us. He shielded us. And that is what hikmah means. So first and foremost, my brothers and sisters, be happy as a Muslim. The Prophet ﷺ says, عَجَبًا لِأَمْرِ الْمُسْلِمِ أَمْرُهُ كُلُّهُ لَهُ خَيْرٌ. It's amazing the matter of the believer. Everything that happens to them is for their own good. Everything that happens politically, socially, economically, you get a job, you lose a job, you have a child, someone dies, someone born, problem at home, it starts, it ends. It's all good. It's all good. Allah is above the throne and He's Hakeem and He's wise. And most importantly, as you're gentle and comfortable and happy in the hikmah of Allah, and as you're inheriting that hikmah in the way you treat people, you're not critical of people but more forgiving and merciful, because that's what wisdom means. Wisdom means bypass, forgive, let it flow. Sometimes act like you didn't see that mistake. Remember one thing, and I conclude with that one thing. You know what it is? On the day of judgment, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls upon two people. And I want you to always just put that picture in your mind. Whether Allah gives you $1 million, or you look at your book at the bank and you get a statement saying NSF. Anybody know what that means? Non-sufficient funds. You don't even have money to pay your own bills. Whether everything is going your way and you're healthy and strong, or you have a doctor bill that says you have high blood pressure, high blood rate, and cholesterol and diabetes, and whatever. Just remember the hadith I'm about to say. Tattoo it in your heart so you never forget it. Allah on the day of judgment calls on two people. One of them, the wealthiest, richest man that lived on this earth, that is kafir, not Muslim. According to the hadith, when this man asks for something, everybody runs and says, yeah, go ahead, take it. If he commands, everybody listens. If he says, I want to marry, everybody says, here's my daughter, take her, please marry my daughter. But he's a bad person, not a good Muslim, not a Muslim at all. So Allah takes him on the day of judgment and dips him in the hellfire and pulls him out. Very quickly, just dips him and pulls him out. And asks him a question. هل رأيت نعيما قط? Have you ever seen your entire life anything good? This is the man that had the mansion, the house by the beach, and the private jets, and all that. Allah dips him in the hellfire, Jahannam. Just 1 second, pulls him out and says, هل رأيت نعيما قط? Have you ever seen anything good? He says, La wallahi, ya Rabb Allah, by your might and mercy, I've never seen anything good in my life. Then Allah takes a Muslim, the poorest of the poorest of the poorest. Health, no health. Broken back, high blood pressure, cholesterol, can't see, destroyed. The Prophet ﷺ says if he goes and knocks on the door and says, I want to marry your daughter, close the door, keep it away. We don't want this guy even in front of our house. If he asks nobody who wants to listen to him, stay away, we don't even know you. It's an embarrassing thing to be seen with such a poor, broke person. His whole life is miserable. Except he was a wise, good, beautiful Muslim that knew Allah and loved Allah. Allah takes him and dips him in Jannah. Just 1 second, pulls him out. Just 1 second. And asks him, how رأيت سوءا قط? Your whole life, have you ever seen anything bad or sad? قال لا والله يا رب. He's smiling and happy and enthusiastic and says, Wallahi, my whole life, I've never seen anything wrong, Ya Rabbi. Allah is Hakeem. And whatever we're going through is to raise our position. So come closer to Allah. Come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Fast more, give more, pray more, help more, be wise, be the definition of wisdom, forgiving of your family, forgiving of your friends, and bypassing some of their mistakes and wrongdoings, and extend your mercy and kindness towards them and your support towards them. Because at that moment, if Allah only dips us in Jannah. اللهم لا تدع لنا ذنبا الا غفرته ولا هما الا فرجته ولا كربا الا نفذته ولا حاجه من حوائج الدنيا والاخره هبه لنا فيها صلاح الا انت على قضائها وسترها برحمتك يا ارحم الراحمين. Allah, we ask you in your most beautiful names and your most beautiful attributes that you forgive us for all of our sins. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, forgive us for all of our shortcomings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we ask you for our children that you protect them, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Give them the best of health, give them the best of wealth, give them the best of knowledge, give them the best of faith, Ya Rabbil Alameen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our parents in our life, allow us to honor them and praise them as much as we can. Allow us to honor them and give them the best of respect and love, Ya Rabbil Alameen. If they have passed away, shower your mercy on their graves. If our parents have passed away and loved ones, Ya Allah, from every of our family members, shower your mercy upon their graves. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, join us and our families and our loved ones and all of the Muslims, Ya Rabbil Alameen. إلى الفردوس الأعلى with our beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. وقوموا لصلاتكم.